Good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday. It's the 20th of January, so we're almost halfway through this week of maths learning. As usual, we are going to start with our three starter questions, and they are to do with different areas of maths. Number 3 is similar to the one we did yesterday, so when we started to think of ratios, that's one way we could do it. So what I'd like you to do is, in a second, you're going to pause the video, have a go at these, then you're going to unpause, come back, and we'll talk about the answers. So give it a pause, have a go for me, get warmed up. All right, so hopefully you've had a good go at the starter. Let's go through how you could have solved them. So first one, the cost of a pineapple is half the cost of a melon. How much does the pineapple and melon cost altogether? First thing to do, we're told how much a melon is. Let's find out how much a pineapple is. So half the cost means £3.50, and to half something we divide by 2. So £3.50 or 3.50 divided by 2 is 1.75. And then how much does a pineapple and a melon, so one of each, 3.50 add 1.75 equals 5.25. And then let's convert that back into monetary form. So £5.25 altogether. After that, Tommy thinks of a number. 5 is a factor of my number. Does Tommy's number have to be odd? Explain your answer. Now, 5 being a factor, it needs to be something that can be times. So 5, for example, could be times by 3 to get 15. That would be odd. If that means 5 is a factor of 15, 5 could be times by 5. 5 could be times by 7 to get 35. So they're all odd. But there are loads of answers you can get that disprove this. So 5 is a factor of 20, 20 and 5 times 4. 5 is a factor of 10, 5 times 2. Okay, so just because it's got a factor of 5 doesn't mean it has to be odd. So there are loads of examples you could use to disprove it. The third one, Gina balances some scales. You've got 2 different sets. What is the mass of a cube? This one took some real thinking about before you got going. So here we've got 3 cubes, weighs the same as 2 of the red balls there. And we can tell it weighs the same because the balance scale is balanced. Then under here we've got 6 cubes, 3 balls, and that weighs the same as 12.6 kilograms. So what we need to do is we need to realize that these 3 cubes, the 2 yellow balls, red balls, sorry. 2 red balls weigh the same as 3 cubes. We've got 2 rows of 3 cubes here, which means we could also call these 6 green cubes 4 red balls. They weigh the same. So if we change them to 4 red balls, that means we now have 7 red balls on this side. Now, because they're then all the same object, we can use that to help us with this 12.6. So if we've got 7 red balls, we do 12.6 divided by 7, split it in 7 equal parts because all the balls are going to be the same weight. That gives us 1.8. Then what we need to do after that is we need to do the 1.8 times 2 to work out how much 2 red balls weighs, because then we're going to get the 2 red balls on this side and we're going to use it to work out the cubes. So the 1.8 times 2 is 3.6. So that clearly means this side is 3.6. This side is 3.6 as well because it is balanced. Now we know that if these 3 cubes weigh 3.6, to find the mass of a cube, we divide through by 3. So 3.6 divided by 3 is 1.2. So a cube is 1.2 kilograms. My word, that was tricky. That was an absolute graded depth question. Well done if you followed through with the actual answers. Well done if you were able to do it on your own. Also well done if you had a go. Okay, because it was challenging. If you managed to do any of the maths involved, well done. It's one of the trickiest questions that we're going to do. Now, learning intention today is to convert between centimetres and millimetres. So we were talking about sensible units of length to use yesterday. Today we're just focusing on centimetres and millimetres. So our star words are length, centimetre, millimetre. Funny, but we've got those three and we're in learning attention. Convert, so we're looking to convert between. And equivalent, so we're looking for things that are the same to help us out. So I've put a picture of a ruler. Hopefully you've all seen a ruler before. Normally in school we have 30 centimetre rulers, but I've just done the one that you can see here because we're going to talk about what the different parts of a ruler are, which is something you won't talk about for a couple of years. So I always think it's good to recap. Each large number on that ruler represents 1 centimetre. So 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres, 3 centimetres, 4 centimetres, and here I've labelled 8 centimetres. So those big numbers are equivalent to a centimetre. What then would each of the small lines represent? So have a think, see if you can remember. There's even a clue down here with the mm. So they represent millimetres. Okay, now what I do want you to think about also is why is there a medium-sized line between each centimetre? What does that medium-sized line help us to do? It might help to count the number of lines that go up to it. And then we're going to talk about how many millimetres go into 1 centimetre. So firstly, this medium-sized line is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millimetres across. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millimetres for the next centimetre. So it's just helping us get our jumps of 5 millimetres. It helps us with our counting. Now, as for how many millimetres are in a centimetre, we can start from 0 and then just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 would take us to a centimetre. So we're 10 millimetres for every 1 centimetre. Hopefully you just remember that and you know that. If you didn't, there we go, 10 millimetres to a centimetre. So we could write this arrow that's pointing here as 25 millimetres. It's 2 centimetres on something, but we could write it as 25 millimetres because there's 25 lines until we get there. When converting from millimetres to centimetres, which is what we're looking to do today, we are going to divide by 10 because we're 10 millimetres in every centimetre, so we can divide by 10 to get how many centimetres. So for example, those 25 millimetres, we wouldn't times by 10 because that would be 250 millimetres. It'd go the wrong way. So we're going to divide by 10 because the number of centimetres is going to get smaller because the unit of measure is bigger. So 25 millimetres divided by 10 is 2.5 centimetres. Now the way we do that is like we did with our decimals. We have to remember the imaginary decimal point bouncing. So if it times in by 10 or 100 or dividing by 10 or 100, you need to imagine that point. So for 25 millimetres, that imaginary decimal point comes after the 25. And then we're dividing by 10, which means we're going to jump 1. Oh no, I've put to the right and I mean the left. Let's see, tell you what, I'll change that live because we know I'm full of mistakes. There we go. So we just need to imagine it move the imaginary decimal point 1 jump to the left. So it jumps here to between the 2 and the 5, the point goes there, so it's 2.5. So that's how we convert from millimetres to centimetres. To go the other way, to convert from centimetres to millimetres, you do exactly the opposite. You would do the jump to the right by 10. So in your home learning books or on your working paper, however you're doing it, I want you to convert the numbers below into either centimetres or millimetres depending on the unit given. So here I've given you 13 centimetres, convert it to millimetres for me, doing the jumping method we've just done. Okay, so this one's already centimetres, so it's going to be a bigger number in millimetres, so you're going to want to jump to the right, aren't you? This one's in centimetres, can you work it out in millimetres? And these ones are in millimetres, so these numbers are going to look smaller as centimetres. So how are you going to do that? If you're not quite sure, rewind the video a couple of minutes. I say rewind, we're not in the 90s, you don't hit the rewind button, but just drag it back a minute or two and you can rewatch the example to show you how to do it. But in your home learning books, convert those for me, please. So give it a pause and have a go. Perfect. Hopefully we're back. And let's just talk through what it was. So 13 centimetres as millimetres would be 130. 25.2 centimetres would be 252 millimetres. 70 millimetres would be 7 centimetres, and 132 millimetres would be 13.2 centimetres. So we were timesing and dividing by 10, depending on which conversion we were doing. So your task, now for this task you will need a ruler. I'm sure you've all got a ruler in your house somewhere. Okay, so if you haven't, you can pause the video and go off and try and find one in the house somewhere, or ask an adult if they know what a ruler is. If you really don't have one, then you will probably have to skip this bit and move on to the mathletics. I'm sure you've all got a ruler somewhere in your house. What I want you to do is please measure, and I'll put safely, at least 5 household objects in centimetres. Don't measure tiny little things, but measure a household object in centimetres, and note that down in your home learning book. And then what I want you to do is use the method we just used to convert that centimetre measurement into millimetres. So for all 5 objects, so in your home learning book, you'll measure an object, write what the object is, for example, Hoover. You'd then write down how many centimetres long it was, and then convert that to millimetres. Do that for 5 objects, and then you're going to come back and I'll explain what you're doing next. Give it a pause, go and do that task, please. Brilliant. Hopefully when we're able to find a ruler and do that task, but if you really struggle to find a ruler, don't panic. So what you're going to do now, because you can all do this, is to log on to your mathletics, and you've been assigned a task today which is converting between centimetres and millimetres. Use what we've done in practice today, see if you can nail it and get that 100%. So pause the video, go and do your mathletics, and then come back, please. Off you go. Okay, hopefully mathletics was good today. I'm sure it was. Sure you all did well. Now, to finish, I want us to think about this sort of problem. So sometimes we need to think logically about a problem instead of instantly assuming, let's do some maths. So there's a question here. I want you to write your explanation in your home learning book, please. So I'll read it to you, and then I want you to write your explanation, your answer, in your home learning book. Teddy thinks his chew bar is 13.2 centimetres long. Do you agree? Explain why. So go to your home learning book, pause this video, and have a go at writing your explanation, please. Go for it. Right, so remember I tried to give you that clue is to think logically, not mathematically. Now there's a once you see it's a fairly obvious answer. Teddy hasn't lined the item he's measuring up with 0. He started in the middle of the ruler. So if he needs to start at 0, so it's, of course, it ends at 13.3 for him. But if he started back at 0, 13.2, sorry, if he started back at 0, it would be 8.8. Now you don't have to get the 8.8 because the lines are so small. That wasn't the expectation. The expectation was you just telling me that he's not lined his chew bar up with 0. It's a really seems a silly error, but it's one that a lot of children, even in year 6, do make. Now to finish today, log on to TT Rockstars, 10 or 15 minutes please of your times table fluency practice, and we'll be back for another video tomorrow. See you later guys, have a good Wednesday.